As a Java programmer, let's say you'd like to write your own Java programs and then compile them using the command line. You know there's two steps that you'll need to do with your program. First, you'll need to use the javac command, which is the compiler command, to compile your source code. And then what you'll need to do once that's been compiled, the .class file is created, and you'll need to run that using the Java command. Let's look in this video at a typical problem that comes up for programmers when they try to do these two steps in command line. First, we'll go ahead and open a command line window, and we can do that by typing cmd here. And now we see the command line window. So we'll need two commands. Let's look at the Java command first. And an easy way to tell if that's working on your system is you can just type Java space and then -version. And when you hit return, what you should see is you should see the version of the Java runtime that's on your system. Now, because you're a programmer, before you ever want to run something like this, you'll need to compile your source code. And that's done using a command called javac. So we can do the same thing that we did with Java, and we can ask to see a version of the Java compiler on your system. And this is what happens to a lot of people, is the Java command was successfully recognized by the system, but javac was not. And so what we're going to look at in this video is how you can address that problem, and so that the system will recognize javac and you'll be able to compile your programs. Before we continue, let me first note that this video is geared toward Windows users, and so if you're using Linux or a Mac, then the instructions here wouldn't apply. So we're going to go from the starting point where our javac command is not working, and the goal of this video is to try to get it so that javac does work correctly in command line mode, so that you can compile programs. So the first thing that you ought to check is you ought to go and check that you have the Java compiler on your system. The Java compiler is part of what's called the Java Development Kit. So we can go and locate that on our computer. When you download the Java Development Kit from the Oracle page, it usually gets installed in a particular directory location. So I'm on my C drive here, and I'm going to go into the program files directory. Now I've got lots of different directories there, but the one I'm interested in is the Java directory. And as you can see, my Java directory here is kind of a mess, because what I've got different versions of Java that I've downloaded over time and installed. And so there's many different versions that I have. You may not necessarily want to have so many versions of it here. But what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the Java Development Kit, and we're going to make sure that we know where the Java compiler is located. So you'll notice here among the JDKs, which are all development kits, we have different versions of them. So for example, as far as version 7 goes, we have one Java development kit here, which is update 79. So let's just pick that one because it's the latest version 7 development kit that I have. If you open that directory, what you'll see is there's another directory called bin, which contains binary files. And these are the files you can think of as being executable. So for version 7, update 79, you'll notice in this directory that we have both a Java command and a javac command. And these two programs are executable. So you may be wondering, well, if these programs are executable, why aren't they showing up for javac when I type that in the command line window? Well, before we go and look at that more, let's try something here in this directory. Let's try to reassure you that that javac command really does work, at least in certain locations. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to deselect this, I'm just going to click outside of it here. And now I'm going to use a Windows shortcut where I hold down the Shift key and right click on my mouse button. And you see that one of the options is to open a command window here. So when I do that, I'm opening a command window that's right in that program file's Java directory. Okay, it's in the bin directory, more specifically. So when I'm in this directory, let's see if I can get the command javac to work just from the directory itself. So again, I'm going to try the version option and see what you get here. It actually comes back and it will tell you what the version of the Java compiler is. So this should help to kind of reassure you that program is on your system and that it's executable. So now the next trick is we want to make it so that you don't have to open a command window inside that bin directory to get Java programs to compile. So let's exit this command window. And I'd like to make one other point here. So remember we had all these different directories with Java. Well, the latest version of Java is version 8, and there's a number of updates for version 8. So I have those on the system, but I also have these directories that begin with JRE. And what those are the Java runtime. And you're going to be wondering, well, why is the runtime system any different from the Java development kit, the JDK? And let me give you an example here. Let me just go into one of these runtimes. And again, we still have the bin directory that we had in the Java development kit. But as I scroll down here, see how I have the Java command, java.exe? Well, notice that I don't have a javac command here. So what's happening is if you go to any of these JREs, the runtime systems, they have the Java command, but they don't have the command that actually allows you to compile your source code. And as a programmer, that's a lot of what you're interested in, is being able to compile your own source code. So it's important to get started that you do have at least one of these Java development kits. And my suggestion would be to get the latest version 7 development kit so that it's there. But if you see these inside of that Java directory, then you're basically in good shape. You still have to do a few things on your system so that javac is recognized kind of universally. So let's close Explorer here and go back to our command line window. So our goal now is to get javac to work, and we know that it's installed on our system. So what do we have to do at this point? The first thing that you have to recognize is that when you type something in the command line, like if I type dog, it's going to come back and say, oh, I don't recognize that as a command, internal, external. Now, the question is, well, why does it recognize some commands and not recognize others? And it has to do with a path that Windows searches for the program names that you type in, right? So when I type dog in the command line, it goes through a search path that it has to try to find a program with that name. And what is that path? Well, the way that we can see what it is if we go to computer and right click on the computer icon, we can look at the properties of our computer. And it's sort of buried down a little deep here, but if you go to the advanced system settings, you'll see another screen, and make sure that you're in the advanced tab, and then click on environment variables. And what you'll see here, if you look at the bottom pane, which is the system variables, and if you scroll down, you'll find a variable, a system variable called path. So to get started with path, let's go ahead and select it and then click the edit button. And you can't see it all. It's actually a pretty long path. But what I'm going to do to work with it is I'm going to copy this. And it's going to copy this real long path for me. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Notepad. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in. And when I paste that long path into Notepad, you can see more of the detail here. Now yours won't look exactly the same as mine. We may have a different set of programs on our computer. But you'll see a long path like this. And so what's happening is when you type something on the command line, it's going to search through all of the folders, directories listed on your path here, and it's going to try to find that command within one of those folders. Now, if it goes through that long list of things and it doesn't find the command, then it's going to return that same error message that we saw about dog or javac is not recognized as a command. That means that it went through your entire path and it didn't find that program in the path. That should tell you that the javac program is not located in any of the directories here that we have in path. But that's okay, because what we're going to do now is we're going to change the path value to include a directory that does have it inside. So let's look at one way we could make that change. Let's go back to the directory, the Java Development Kit, where we were at. And this has the version of Java that we're interested in, including the javac. So let's go ahead, let's copy this directory. Actually, let's go down into the bin directory and let's copy that directory path. Because what we want to do is we're going to go back here and we're just going to paste it on the front of what's already in the path. And notice that after you put a directory, you need to, for Windows, to separate it from the next directory with a semicolon. So what I've done here is I've taken this whole directory path to the bin directory and I've put it before the information that was already in path. And what I'm going to do now is, it's been easy to view it in Notepad, but I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to where I was editing the path system variable, get rid of what I had before, and then paste this in. And then as soon as I say OK, now that path has been included at the front of what was already there, and that path includes the javac command. So what we're going to hope will happen now is if I open another command window. Now remember, I had this old one here. If I were to type javac now, you might think, oh, now the path contains the folder to the right place. Let's see if we can do a version on that. And you're still going to get the fact that it's not recognized as a command. But what you need to do is you actually need to get out of this command window and then get back into it before you'll see the change that you made. So now, if everything is right, I can type javac and it'll come back with the version for me, which is what you expect. So now let's go back and let's take a look at what we did again, just to review what it was, now that we have javac working. We had to change what was known as the path, and that's under the system properties. And if you go to advanced system properties, environment variables, path is located there. And if I edit it now, it's hard to see. Let me scroll to the front of it. You can see that the Java Development Kit version 7 and then the bin directory is now within your path, and that's the reason that it can find the javac command. So this is one way to just fix the issue right away, and from now on you should be able to open up a command prompt anywhere and be able to type in the javac command. And that'll come in handy for different exercises that you're working on. But there's another thing that we can do to do this a little nicer, and you'll see this done a lot. Let me cancel out of here. What people do a lot of the time is they'll create another system variable called java_home. So I'm going to do that here, and you can see how it works. I'm going to create something called java, and I'll do it in capital letters, _home. And that name is a special one that we're going to use later in the actual path. Instead of hard coding the particular version in our path, what we're going to do is use this java_home. So let's go back and get the directory, the Java directory that we're interested in. And now we're not going to put that bin directory. We're just going to get the directory that's up above that. Okay, so this is still the Java Development Kit version 7, update 79, but it's not specifying the bin directory. So let's say OK on this. And what we'll do is go down below here and verify that it really did have that folder there. Now what we want to do is we want to revisit the path that we had set up. All right, so let me just see if I can edit it here. And if I go to the front of this, I'm going to try to edit this in place. What you can do, see how we had hard-coded the version of Java? Well, now what we can do is we can kind of refer to that other environment variable that we created, that java_home. And so we're not going to hard code the actual path here inside of the path variable, but we're going to use the other variable's name. And I'm sure you'll wonder why this is happening, but let's say OK. And OK here. And now let's just double check that this works, because we want to make sure that we didn't break it again. So let's go back and create another command line. And if I say javac version, I should see that version, which I do. So here's the idea behind this, is what you've done is create a java_home. And now whenever you see new versions of Java, you don't have to get into that big long path environment variable to change it. You can actually just select your java_home, and then what you can do is edit the path to whichever version you want. So you know how I had a whole bunch of different ones here. You could easily select a different variable, or I'm sorry, a different version of Java. Go into that directory and then copy that path and replace it in the java_home, and that would give you the latest version or a different version. So let's say that I did that here with version 8. Let me say OK, OK. Let's get out of the command shell again and get back into it. Now what happens if I look at javac version? It's thinking about it a bit here. And see what it came back with? It came back with the version 8 now. And that's all because you've created this environment variable called java_home. And that's going to be your way of maintaining the correct version of the Java Development Kit on your system. So all you'll need to do is periodically go through and see if there's an updated version and download and install it if there is, and then just change this value of java_home. Now note that you probably will need administrative type permissions to be able to make some of these changes, but if it's your own laptop, then you should be in pretty good shape. And so this is the suggestion I would take, is rather than hard code that path directly into the path variable, I would say, go instead of putting it inside path here, make your path refer to something else called Java_home, and then just keep that up to date over time. So I hope this helps. If you have questions about it, I'd be happy to try to give it a shot here and answer them. There are some differences between versions of Windows in terms of how you do this, but this may give you enough information to get you going and to get your Java code compiling.